it's so wonderful to have you here today, Sharie Johnson. Yes, thank you.
I think you are so awesome. So, okay.
Likewise.
Thank you.
So, well, we're here today to talk about small business for in reference to PR, and it's such a treat to have you here once again. You were an eloquent speaker and gave a fantastic seminar last Saturday at the Las Vegas Urban League about PR with startup steps for small business. And I'm just so delighted to have you here to have a webinar with us. And I'd like to say hello to our online viewers. So on behalf of the Nevada Women's Business Center, I'd like to welcome you here today to our live stream webinar. I'm Kathleen Taylor, and we're going to talk about PR a little bit more in depth with some key points. So our guest presenter, guest speaker today is Miss Sharie Johnson, and I'd like to introduce her and share some points, a background about her. So Sharie is a Superman fan who does public relations in that order.
That's right.
She graduated from college. The former Emmy-nominated journalist has chased news stories in 2 countries and 3 states, including Las Vegas, Nevada. However, after becoming a wife and a mom, congratulations.
Thank you.
Your daughter's adorable.
Thank you.
She found a new niche she calls the other side of news. Sharie owns PR Insiders, helping businesses, nonprofits, and celebrities share their story with the world. She's also active in the community, helping to host an annual Girls Summit, teaching girls ages 5 to 18 about self-confidence, combating bullying, and the importance of an education. And she loves meeting new people. So don't hesitate to, contact her, and she will share her contact information towards the end of the webinar. So welcome.
Thank you, Kathleen. I humbly and graciously accept. I was so excited when you said
the transition from corporate America and being, within the news industry into becoming an entrepreneur and finding your niche in the industry. So in reference to like PR, generally speaking, what do you think PR is so important for a small business owner? Because there's some people that'll say, well, you know what, people know who I am, or I have connections, but I think it would be, perhaps more strategic to have a set PR strategy in the marketplace. So what are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. And the reason why it is even more essential for small businesses is because small businesses haven't really defined their story. And so if you're fortunate, you're a small business that's out there and your name is already out in the community, organic. You already have a lot of organic PR and outreach going on from however you got started. Maybe people know you, maybe you came from corporate America, or maybe they just already knew what you were about. But a lot of times for small businesses, it's even more so important because if people don't know what you do, then it's almost like you're not doing it. It's in this day and age, it's like not having PR is like a business that doesn't have a website.
Wow.
And so back in the day, we had storefronts, we had brick and mortars. But in this digital age, that website is that storefront. And so not having PR is almost like not having that digital stamp that I'm out there, even if it's not social media, a website. And so, and I'm not saying again that you have to get a PR firm, but you do have to implement some PR strategies.
So speaking of strategies, could you kind of like craft just a couple or some tips, that generally speaking should be integrated within the infrastructure of a firm from a PR perspective?
Absolutely. So one key PR strategy is influencing the influencers.
Oh, wow.
So think about whoever the top industry executives or analysts are in your industry, and influence them to is selling water, the rate at which you're selling it, and also let them know what is it that your business does differently that other businesses may not do just to sell water? What are some of those things that you're doing that's working? And so share with them some of your company information. Share with them the reach that you have in the community, what you're doing, and share with that. So the next report that may come out from the water researchers, they might mention your company.
Right.
Or they might mention a strategy that's working for a Las Vegas businesswoman. And so there it is, you have influencers and unlimited people. Say, for example, 100,000 people read that report. And the media picks up the report.
That's fantastic.
Your business, your water business is in that report, and you've gotten exposure. And so not just reports, but individuals in Las Vegas that may be successful in the water industry.
Yes.
Collaborate with them, partnerships, whatever you can do to form partnerships with people that are in your industry, or let people know what it is you're doing. You have to toot your own horn.
Yeah, you do.
You know, having a small business, it's not about humility. You got to let people know, here's what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And it's really working.
Yes.
And so that's just one strategy, influencing the influencers. But another strategy that everyone should be doing, and that is pitching your story to the media and learning the language that the media needs to take your story for your business and translate it into a news story that gives you exposure, that gives you credibility. Learning that language is really not difficult. It does take time and it does take commitment. But again, you're here to make your business grow.
Right.
And so I even host through SCORE a free workshop, just to help businesses understand, a little bit more about how to pitch their story to the media. And so that's a good tip as well.
Definitely, and to kind of like explore what you said earlier, it seems that on the outside looking in from a small business owner's perspective, or a business owner in general, how do you get someone to feel that, okay, even though I don't have the expertise or know-how to pitch the media, how can I build my skill set so that I'm comfortable with completing this task or get the process going? Because there's some owners may think that, you know what, I'm just a small fish in a big pond, or I'm just starting out. Is my business really newsworthy? And it may be like a self-professional development issue of confidence and putting like you said, tooting my own horn, so to speak, and not being reserved about telling people who you are to make people know what you do. So what is the process in pitching the media that someone from a small business perspective has to kind of build that skill set to acquire? So
pitching, here's what you have to understand about, first and foremost, about pitching your story to the media. The media needs your story. So it doesn't matter.
Could you repeat that?
Yes, they need it. They need it and they rely on it.
That's
in the
brilliant.
session from
That's
this past
brilliant.
weekend, the key point that I brought up is the media they're simply people who rely on information. And so it doesn't matter that you're not a Fortune 500 company. As a matter of fact, it's better if you're not a Fortune 500 company, because you're a small business owner and you're doing something that works and you're impacting lives and you're affecting an industry. And so it's important to understand, first and foremost, the media relies and needs the information that you have. Secondly, you have to understand that it's a right. Communication is not just a need, but it's also a right under the Constitution.
Absolutely.
Freedom of speech.
Yes.
And so making sure you first understand that, and you really got to embrace that, like, wow, the media they need me? They need my information?
Yes.
That's right, because they rely on information, and the media every single day goes into at least 1 or 2 meetings per day, and they talk about things that are going on in the community. So if you don't tell them what's going on in the community, they don't know. And if you don't tell them in a language they understand, they won't report your story. And so the language is not taboo. It's all about thinking about a couple of things. Whatever your story is, ask yourself the question, why now? Why am I pitching this angle, this story to the media right now? If it's a camp idea that you have for kids, you wouldn't pitch it in December because school is in full force in December. You would pitch it during summer months. Something as simple as why now? Ask yourself why now. The other thing you have to ask is, why is it relevant to this audience? So why is it relevant to people in Southern Nevada? If it's a story about, I don't know, something, just throwing something out there. If it's a story about something that's happening in Asia or Iraq, make it relevant to what's happening in Southern Nevada.
Right.
How do you make it relevant? Well, we have a huge Asian population.
Yes.
And so look at the stats of how huge the Asian population here is in Nevada. And in your pitch to the media, mention that. This story about what's going on in the Asian community is important because 30% or 20% of tourists and people who live here, people who visit here, are in that community.
Yes.
And so why now? Why is it relevant? And then the last question that you have to ask yourself is, am I connecting people to resources? Am I connecting or informing them about resources in my community? So why am I pitching this story now? Why is it relevant to people in Southern Nevada? Make that connection. And then, am I connecting and informing people about something that's happening in my community? And you can't lose with that formula.
I agree. And going back to the point that you made earlier about influencers, who are the influencers along that process within the realm of the media, like a local news channel? Who would you try to connect with to influence the decision? Well, when everyone's at the table, because you meet twice a day,
Right.
Who would be your point of contact to at least help to influence others that this is a story that's worthy of a larger story to share with the community?
So I'll answer your question. I'll go back and then I'll answer your question. So take, for example, my main client, Millennial Esports. Shameless plug.
Oh, sure.
Millennial Esports is the newest arena at the Neonopolis in downtown Las Vegas. It's 15,000 square feet.
Wow.
And
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
And esports is just competitive video gaming.
That's a huge industry.
Exactly.
Especially for the millennials.
Right. And so kids, they love playing. And I say kids, I'm old. I'm not old, but I say kids relatively. So kids are teenagers, young people, millennials. They love playing video games anyway. And now this industry is blown up where they can make 7 figures just by entering a tournament and winning. Yes. And so my client says, Sharie, I want Millennial Esports. I want my arena, my company to be. Here's the industry first. He wants the industry as a whole. He wants Nevada to be the esports capital of the world. So how do we make Nevada the esports capital of the world and shine a light on his business that's doing something as simple as esports in a really fun and creative way inside an arena that's unlike any other arena in the world?
That's fantastic.
And so connecting him to the who's who influencers in the esports industry, whether that's, and I mentioned earlier, report, whether that's Newzoo. Newzoo is a global market researcher for esports, or whether that's the LVCVA, they're influencers, or people in the community, whether that's Tony Shea, an influencer. And so the circle of influencers, connecting your business to those individuals and finding a way to help them understand we're doing the same thing, just on a different scale.
Right.
So how can we work together so that we can all grow? And so that I had to go back and say that just about the influencers. But to answer your question in terms of media influencers, you want to make sure that you're emailing the general manager.
Okay.
Or the news director, or of course the reporters, or producers. Producers have a lot of executive decision over the stories that are inside of their show, their 30-minute show or their hour-long show. And so those are the key people inside a TV station that you'll want to reach out to, general managers, news directors, and producers. in addition to reporters who basically go to the meeting and barter for you and pitch your story,
Right.
defend your story once you send them that pitch via email. So those are the key people inside any news organization. Well, that's for TV, of course. If it's for newspaper, we're talking about the editor.
Yes.
You know, in addition to the reporter. If it's for radio, I need to find out who it is for radio. But you just call up. You call up and say, I've got a great story idea, and I just want to talk to whoever is responsible for deciding what goes on air. And they'll tell you.
Is it the director of programming or,
Director of
or
programming.
something like that?
That sounds right. I'm just not, I can't say for sure.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've kind of like thrown around the word pitch, you know, for during the conversation. Could you share with the audience what makes up a pitch? You know, from a PR perspective, what are the parts, and could you kind of like give someone an example of that so that they know how to craft it when they approach a reporter, or email, you know, a producer or something of that sort?
So what makes up a pitch is the same thing that makes up a great story.
Okay.
If it's a great story, then it's going to be a great pitch, a killer pitch. And so think about stories. And we all do PR every day. I think that's the thing that people don't understand.
I agree.
Once you go home, once I go home, I'm going to tell my husband, Kathleen was so amazing. I'm going to tell him about my day. I'm going to tell him what I did, who I interacted with. That's all PR is. You're communicating about, instead of your day, you're communicating about your business.
Right.
So first understand, we all do PR. Everybody in the nation, I don't care. If you can talk, my daughter can do PR. She can talk a little bit better, but you know, kids, they talk about things that they've experienced. They talk about people that they've seen. And so understanding a good pitch is also understanding first, I do PR. Not I can, but I do PR. And then understanding what makes a great story. So think about your favorite movie. And I'm always saying think about so that you can actually remember these tips. Think about your favorite movie. One of the greatest movies of all times to me is Men of Honor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. I don't want to ruin it for you.
Okay.
Anyway, Cuba Gooding Jr. I won't spoil it, but he's the main character, and he fights his entire life because his dream is just to become a master, a deep sea diver.
Wait a minute, I did see that movie.
Wasn't it amazing? Yes. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I cried.
Right.
And I was so inspired.
Yes.
Oh, I wanted to walk for him when he was.
Yes. So you're taking the words out of my mouth.
Yes.
That's what makes a good pitch.
Oh my gosh.
Now, she loved Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yes.
in that movie. We both loved him because he was real.
Yes.
He was relatable.
Amazing.
He was relatable. He wasn't, he was just like, and I'm talking beyond race. He was a real person. He had struggles, he had ups, he had downs. He was real and he was relatable, and that's what made him appeal to a wider audience.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing that makes a good pitch, that also makes a good story. Is it real? Is it relatable? You know, once you get on the news and pitch this, are people, the percentage of people in Nevada, who's really going to be able to relate?
Yes.
Because if you're pitching something about, this is just an example, if you're pitching something about billionaires and how to become a zillionaire, okay, I'm just making that up, then the majority of Nevada will not be able to relate to you because the majority of Nevada are not billionaires.
Good point.
And so think about the audience in Nevada. Is it real? Is it relatable? We have moms, we have dads, we have, you know, people who are struggling, we have small business owners, we have education is huge. Think about the things that are huge in our community. Is your story pitch real? Is it relatable? That's the very first thing that a lot of people don't understand. And then the second thing that's important in crafting a good pitch is how does it relate to something that's going on globally? For example, you know, education. That's a global issue.
It is. I agree.
Yes, that's a global issue. You can't go wrong with pitching a good education story. And so having characters, number one, having characters that are real and relatable, just like your favorite movies.
Right.
And two, making sure that it connects to a larger story so that the media doesn't feel like I'm doing a story on this one small business in Nevada, but they're the only one having this issue. The media wants to be able to say, you know, countless people around the world are dealing with this exact same thing.
Right.
They want to be able to say that to connect to the larger picture, the larger issue, the larger story. And so those are the two key things. And so just an example, if there's a Muslim bombing and your business specializes in diversity, then your pitch to the media could be how to make sure that your Muslim coworkers feel safe in the workplace.
Right.
Bam.
Bam.
If Jennifer Aniston, who's a celebrity, the media loves, you know, celebrity entertainment news. And when I say media, I'm talking beyond news.
Sure.
I'm talking beyond news. We say media. We have podcasts, just
Yes,
like
we
we're
do.
on. You're always looking for a good story. We have radio, TV, print, so many forms of communication. So when you think media, think everyone. And so if Jennifer Aniston is getting a divorce, you could, and you're a counselor. You think I'm just a marriage counselor. I don't even, you know, I don't even make 6 figures a year yet. Well, you can pitch a great story, and that is how to Hollywood-proof your marriage.
Bingo.
Marriage is a global issue.
Yes, it is.
Marriages, there are good days in marriages, and there are not so good days in marriages.
Right, and that's the norm.
And so it's all about angles. Those are just 2 examples, but it's all about angles because every single year the media does the story about Valentine's Day.
Yes.
How do we make this Valentine's Day different? They need your information. If you have an idea, if you sell hearts, but your hearts are broken in 2 for the couples who are no longer together. I'm just, just an example.
Right.
Valentine's Day, and then the media comes on the air. Valentine's Day, everyone is talking about love, but one small business owner is talking about loving after a heartbreak.
Wow.
Now you've just made a different Valentine's Day story.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Excellent. Yes. Really good example.
Yeah, angles is everything, Kathleen.
And you know what? The angles should be related to your target market. And then there are some angles that can be broader strokes too as well. And I find it interesting when people create their pitch. It starts from a 2-minute to a 30-second to a 10-minute elevator pitch. And it seems to me that not everyone is consistent in the storytelling.
That's right.
Because it's a shorter time. So it's important to make sure that the points and the strategies that you shared with us are integrated within those time frames of your content for your promotional message from a PR perspective. Now I'm kind of interested now, since you are a PR firm, what kind of PR strategies do you use to promote your business?
Well, I'm actually using all of my strategies on my clients. Some things that I do, because I worked at Channel 8, I utilized the platform that I had there in the community.
Excellent.
And so, I mention it. I mention it because whenever I go do seminars or workshops or speaking engagements or just community events where I'm just attending, I make sure people know, especially if we're talking PR, because I want them to understand I'm connected.
Right.
And so establishing relationships in the community is paramount.
It is.
This is not pay for play.
Yes. No,
These are
not.
real, genuine relationships that I've established over 6 years here. And so being in the community every single day, meeting someone, 6 years may not sound like a long time, but that's the time that I've invested with, my contacts in the community.
That's a long time to build a relationship, 6 years.
Thank you.
And could you speak about being diligent, in your efforts, and also, discipline too, throughout the, from being a business owner, and also implementing strategies?
Yeah, so it was It really was. I hear people talk about how difficult it is running a business, but my transition wasn't really difficult. I just said, let's do this.
Yes.
Let's do this. Let's not look back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's utilize the platform that you already have on social media, in the community, and I just didn't look back. I didn't look back. And so if you really want something, the discipline will be there.
I agree.
If you really want it, if you're not really sure, or just kind of shooting in the wind, an old term my mom would use, then you have a tendency to be less disciplined.
Yes.
Because it's really just a trial. You know,
Exactly.
I don't have a plan B.
Exactly.
My desire is not to go back to corporate America. And so
That's motivation in itself.
right. The discipline comes in knowing this is what we're doing.
Right.
And this may be a $1 million idea, or it may not work. But if it doesn't work, we're going to switch gears just like that. And so the discipline really comes in, you know, my desire not to go back to corporate America, but to continue to have this flexibility so that I can be home for my daughter at 5 in the evening, and spend time with her on weekends, and not have to be pulled away to breaking news because there's a fire in Arizona, or, you know, some unforeseen accident on the strip. And so the discipline comes out of that desire to not go back.
You know, and that's so refreshing in breaking it down like that, because it seems that, you know, if you're a business owner, or you have aspirations to be an entrepreneur, then knowing who you are, you know, and what your capabilities and especially what your limitations are is key. And I think that would motivate someone to at least hit milestones, you know, within a certain time frame to make this work. Now we're not recommending that anyone quit their job. Please be strategic, you know, in your transition.
Right.
Because only you knew when it was right, you know, to make the move, you know. But you had things in line before you made that transition. There are times when we have clients that are so gung-ho about, you know, opening their business, that they may not necessarily have a solid game plan that will sustain them during that transition. But it's so refreshing to hear that, you know, you had a game plan, or at least a foundation established.
Yes.
So with that, what is it that you do, going back to influencers? And I'm always going back to this point, because especially in this town, it really is about the influencers, you know, who you know, and if they know you. How do you like make it like an equal exchange, so to speak, in that you have A, B, and C that you quote want from this influencer. What are you giving back in return to this influencer to kind of like, you know, make it an equal exchange, so to speak?
So I'll just use this example with my main client, Millennial Esports. And so one of the relationships that we've established is with the LVCVA, who's amazing.
What does that stand for?
Oh, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority.
Okay.
So the LVCVA, as you all know, is responsible for globally marketing and branding our city.
Yes.
And so they're a powerhouse.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yes.
I can imagine. Sure.
And, you know, we hear these reports about how many people visit Nevada every year, and new campaigns that have started to attract people in other countries to come.
Wow.
And why they should come, and what all they could do here. I mean, the LBCVA is responsible for so much. But one of the things that they do is a lot of organizations come to them just for meeting space, and a lot of people don't realize that. As much as they do it in the community, as much as they do globally, a lot of organizations and corporations come to them saying, you know, I'm hosting this next year, or that next year, and I just really need a cool place to host it. And so that's one of the influencers that we've established a relationship with, to where we're on that list.
Oh, wow.
We're on that list to where if someone comes and they want something like an esports venue for their, corporate meeting, or or a tournament, or any event that they may be holding. And so we're on that list, and what the LVCVA does is spreads the wealth. And so they go down their list, and they get asked so often about meeting spaces that they go down this list and they just check people off. And so we're on that list. And so in exchange for, this is just one example. So, it may not seem like a lot to some people. How does that translate into immediate sales? Well, it doesn't.
Right, it doesn't.
And
it's a relationship.
Exactly. And that's what people have to realize about relationships.
Exactly.
You may not get your ROI on demand.
Right.
But over time, you will. And so that's what they're doing for us, and so gracious for it. And so in response, we really are just promoting the LVCVA.
Yes.
The LVCVA in among millennials, so that millennials understand what the LVCVA, and it may sound simple, but a lot of people that are familiar with the LVCVA may be beyond millennials.
Right, exactly.
And so really just promoting who they are and what they do, and the fact that we have a relationship with them. And so it may sound just that simple, but it really is using whatever you can to grow the relationship.
Right.
And so that's what we're able to do right now. We're not able to do more, but when the time comes, we will be able to. So I say we, my client.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, my client.
And I'd like to mention something about relationships. Even though it's a business relationship, relationships are about people. And once you establish that, making your story relatable to that other person, over time, with building that relationship, the business will come.
Right.
And even if the business does not, come your way, you have still established a great relationship with this person, this influencer. And eventually down the road, you may never know what could come of it.
That's true.
So what are your thoughts about being patient, having patience in the process?
Oh, goodness. That's a great question, because you have to.
Yes.
You have to. And so as small business owners, I get it. It may be really difficult. I don't, my firm, is 6 months in the making. So I don't want to pretend that I'm this hedge hunter who's been doing this for 40 years, because I haven't. But what I have been doing for over almost 20 years is establishing relationships through the media, through journalism. And so I've learned that, I've understood that, because I had to establish relationships in order to get story ideas. Whenever we're trained, I'm a former journalist, our training consists of understanding how to maintain those relationships.
Wow.
And as a reporter, as a news personality, you are encouraged and strongly urged to maintain a relationship with people in the community, so that when something happens, you're the first person they think of to call.
And it's like, according to my sources.
Right. And so a lot of the breaking news stories, a lot of the exclusive interviews, a lot of the tips that I got about that were great stories were as a result of these established relationships.
Excellent.
And they took time.
Sure.
And that took patience. And so it really, those are really my thoughts. Understanding that even as a small business owner, I want immediate, I want my ROI, and I want it now. That's the world we live in. I want it, and I want it now. So understanding that when it comes to developing long-lasting relationships with people in the community, it's not going to happen immediately.
Right.
It's not. And so really wrapping your mind around that will give you the patience to understand that you're building something. And as with anything, it takes time, but it's always, always worth it.
Definitely. Now, I find it interesting that some of the trends in the industry are incorporating or complementing, rather, in addition to the ROI, return on investment,
Mm-hmm.
there is something called a ROV, return on value.
Okay.
So even though the ROI is more dollar revenue driven,
Mm-hmm.
through sales transactions or other activities that drives that,
Mm-hmm.
the ROV, return on value, is basically the time, the discipline, the patience of building that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually you will get a return on value as a result of that relationship.
That's right.
So I find that quite fascinating,
Mm-hmm.
how things have changed, even though in this um, uh, world of technology that we live in, the return on value comes back to
Mm-hmm.
the people that drives the relationship.
It really is true. You reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those principles don't, they're still existent. You know, those are biblical principles, but they are very much alive and true
Yes.
in the business world.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, that's where the business got those principles. But it is true. You reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
And so you continue to sow good relationships, solid relationships, lasting relationships. And after time, like anything healthy, it grows into something that you could now, that value
Yes.
can turn into that investment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I must say this has been, such a delightful conversation. It's like
Thank
part
you.
2, from
Right.
your fantastic presentation last Saturday at the Las Vegas Urban League.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, are there any like a couple of pearls of wisdom that you'd like to share in closing with the audience? And also, could you please provide your contact information if someone would like to connect with you?
Absolutely. So if you are a small business owner, one really important thing that I just want to throw out there is don't underestimate your value. Please.
Absolutely.
I know
Absolutely.
that there are so many reasons that you can,
Mm-hmm.
but don't underestimate your value. And that really has a lot to do with operating out of fear. Don't operate out of fear, because fear will keep you from reaching out to that influencer. Fear will keep you from researching available grants and things that may be available to you. Fear will keep you from introducing yourself at a networking event and finding out or not finding out how much you may have in common with someone who looks nothing like you.
Yes.
And so don't underestimate your value. Despite the size of your organization or how many staff you have something to offer.
Yes.
You have something that people need. That's to the small business owners. To those who are out there who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, I would say just really, you touched on this a little earlier, but think about what you're going to do and how you're going to execute it.
Yes.
I think you said having a plan, or at least a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And so having done the research, having understood your industry, your target audience, your market, taking time to invest in yourself.
Yes.
And taking time to understand what you need to at least get started. And so those are the two things that I would say that I've learned so far the most. And that's really, there was something else I had on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it right now. But those are the main things. Not operating out of fear, and knowing, not underestimating yourself is huge.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's very easy. It's very easy to get discouraged
Yes.
as a small business owner, because they have this and they have that, and this business has this.
Exactly.
But don't focus on what they have or what they don't have.
Right. Focus on your own story.
Right, and what you can offer, what you can bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what I was about to say. And stay in whatever your expertise is. Stay in that lane, because
Good
whatever
point.
you
Good
do,
point.
you can do well.
Right.
You can do really well.
Yes.
My PR firm doesn't offer all of the services that some PR firms offer because there are just some things that I can't do well.
Sure.
But as a former journalist and been on the receiving end of the wrong kinds of press releases, I know story ideas. I know how to not regulate, that's a bad word, but I know how the media thinks.
Yes.
So I know what excites them in a news story from a business.
Yeah.
And so that's the lane that I stay in. Storytelling, reaching out to stakeholders, media press kits, media press events. That's my lane. So whatever your lane is for your business, stay in that lane.
That's right.
Even if you don't offer 20 services that you do okay, maybe you can just offer 2 services that you do really well. Exactly.
And you bring up a good point in staying in your lane. When you look at these like million dollar industries, for example, Starbucks, when Starbucks was just coming out, Starbucks, their main thing that they stayed in their lane was coffee. Now granted, they branched out and included breakfast wraps and iced coffee, but basically their lane is coffee. They didn't offer fresh squeezed juices or smoothies or stuff like that. It's just coffee. If you look at KFC or Popeyes, it's fried chicken. They're not serving hamburgers, or Subways.
Or turkey.
Right.
Lean turkey.
Exactly. So those same principles apply across the board.
Yeah. I think about Raising Cane's.
Yes.
It's just chicken.
That's it.
It is just chicken.
That's it.
That's
Absolutely.
It. Yeah. So just the same example as the other Popeyes. Same. But you're right. Whenever you find something that you do well, stick with it.
Exactly.
And you never know where it may take you.
Right. Exactly. So could you share with the audience? This has been so wonderful. I'm so glad that you
Kathleen.
Came again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you can reach out to me. I'd love to hear your feedback or something you love, something you hated, something you have a question about. Sharie at PRinsidersFirm.com. Spelled out, that's SHARIE PRINSIDERS, PR Insiders, FIRM. PRinsidersFirm.com.
And what's your website?
Website is www.PRinsidersFirm.com. Just PRinsiders with an S, firm.com.
Okay, wonderful. Well, if you'd like any more information about our programs and services, please contact the Nevada Women's Business Center. I'm Kathleen Taylor, and thanks once again, Sharie, for being here. And thank you, our virtual audience, tuning in to this live stream on our YouTube channel. Thank you again for your time, and until next time, take care. And if you have any questions, please contact the Nevada Women's Center at area code 702-734-3555. Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Yay.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Awesome.
You are awesome. You are
That
awesome.
was fun.
Yeah, it was.
That is fun.